listen just for the first time.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Bros, episode 3 of the semester. As always, Jordan, Ryan, I'm Ethan. First thing we're going to talk about, guys, is last night's big news with Tua Tagovailoa. The NFL Players Association right now is looking into the Dolphins' doctor staff for misdiagnosing him and mistreating him, basically clearing him to play yesterday after he was banged up against the Bills. Big news there. Obviously, Tua said in the hospital, like, he's feeling much better, but still, if you guys want to touch on that a little bit, it's still a huge situation and something that we're not a stranger to this kind of situation, as we saw Tyrod Taylor on the Chargers, that whole scandal that happened a couple of years ago. So, what do you guys think about that?
Well, first, it's nice to hear that he's doing better and he's conscious too, and he's not like full like unconscious like concussion. He's just doing good in the hospital right now, so I hope a speedy recovery for Tua. But at the same time, it's good that the NFLPA is stepping up for Tua to investigate what actually happened, and I feel like there needs to be more background and like safety checks than just sending out players like each week in case of something like this happening again. So NFL just needs to be more cautious on like who they choose to play, and like the team doctors just need to do a better job, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'd agree with everything that you guys both have said. I don't really have anything else to add, but I will say with the Tyrod Taylor thing last year, it was slightly different. It was he punctured the lung, I believe, and it was like an accidental thing, and it ended up working out for the Chargers, obviously with Justin Herbert, but like it was not good at the time, and then it turned out okay. But still, doesn't get rid of the fact that the doctors did do something to Tyrod Taylor, but I'd say it's a different situation.
It obviously is a different situation, but it's also like something where, the doctors screwed up again, back-to-back years. But yeah, hopefully, Tua, I know they were going for keeping their undefeated streak, but obviously players' health is way more important. But yeah, hopefully, Tua said he was doing well, so hopefully, he's back for his speedy recovery. We'll see if he's back next Sunday. But in other news, let's move slightly to baseball before we talk about week 4 of the NFL. As we all know, Aaron Judge just tied Roger Maris for the AL record home runs in 61. And tonight's the first chance he has to try and break the record, go 62. So I'm personally going to the game. I'm pretty excited. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to jinx it, but I'm just going to say he has a chance to break the record tonight and basically solidify, if he's not already the MVP, him being MVP. Although Shohei Ohtani did have a really good pitching game yesterday. He had a no-hitter going into the 8th inning. So I still think Judge is MVP, but we'll see if he breaks the record tonight, guys.
Yeah, I'm hoping that he does break it, and I hope he doesn't break it by 1. I hope he breaks it by a lot. But I just want him to break it. Of course, being a Yankee fan, they've only got 7 games left. Shouldn't be a problem, but it did take a little bit to get this last home run. So the pressure's probably like crazy on him right now, and I'm sure he can feel it. So I'm hoping that he does end up getting it.
Yeah, I went to the game last Friday night, and it was so awesome to see when he walked up to the plate. Like everyone in the stands would just stand up and take out their phones, and once the pitch came, like everyone was silent. So it was like definitely a cool experience to be at the game. And it did take him a while to hit that 1 home run to tie Roger Maris, but hopefully he does hit it soon and he can beat the record by a lot, but just not hitting like 1 home run to beat it, but having a lot of home runs to beat it. In my opinion, he's the best home run hitter I've seen in my lifetime, and right now he's the biggest New York athlete attraction in New York. So he's got a big name. I hope he stays in New York. And if I caught that home run ball, I would give all the money I make from it to keep Judge in New York.
Love to hear it, man. All right. So I think we did both those top news stories justice. So let's talk rapid fire about week 4 of the NFL, guys.
Different format this week a little bit.
Different format. We're kind of going a little quicker. Going to talk about our respective favorite teams a little more in depth, but every other team. It's a little more rapid fire. So let's go. First, Bills Ravens. Going to be a good matchup. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. I think the Bills bounce back, though. I think they win this game by, I'll give them 10 points. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'll give them 10.
I think the Bills and Ravens are both doing very well this year. And I believe that the Ravens have the most points scored this year, and the Bills are 3rd, and the Lions are 2nd. But that's pretty good. So I'm really hoping for a high scoring game. I think that the Bills will win this because I'm thinking the Bills are winning the Super Bowl, even though, especially coming off that loss last week to the Dolphins, they're going to want some revenge. I think they're going to win by 10, but no, not by 10, by 7, but it'll be a high scoring game.
I have the Ravens winning this. I think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl at the end of the year, but I have the Ravens because Lamar Jackson right now looks like the MVP frontrunner, and the Bills are without Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer on 2 big defensive backs for their defense. So if they remain out for this week, I think Lamar Jackson can just dominate that defense. Offense can put up a lot of points for the Ravens, and as well, their defense is looking really strong these past couple of weeks. So I have the Ravens.
I would also say, though, that the Ravens defense has not been looking that strong. I'm sorry, Jordan, but they've given up a lot of points in the last 3 games. It's the only one that they didn't really give up a ton of points, like plus 25, is against the Jets, and the Jets are unfortunately 31 in the power rankings right now, but we'll get to that later. So I don't think the defense is that strong personally.
That's true. I mean, the Ravens do give up a lot of points, but they had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter last week. So if they can just keep on hammering those turnovers and forcing those turnovers, I think the defense can edge out the Bills this week.
Yeah, good points, guys. Now we're going to go to our next game, which is our first, I believe, London game of the year between Minnesota Vikings and New Orleans Saints. I think this is going to be a great game, guys. I know I kind of talked trash about the Saints earlier this year, but they've honestly looked pretty solid. Alvin Kamara, big, person who needs to stay healthy. Michael Thomas, like you've been saying, Ryan, his addition back on the team is really good. And I think you touched on it too, Jordan. But I'll take the Vikings by 3 in a very, very tight game.
I think the Vikings are going to win too, but I'm still kind of waiting for the Saints to find their spot because Alvin Kamara has kind of been doing absolutely nothing so far. Unfortunately for me, because he's on my fantasy team. But aside from that, still just not really producing at all. And Michael Thomas has been looking really good. I hope he stays healthy. It's a really good season so far for him. I hope he continues it. But also, Jameis Winston has not looked as sharp as last year. He's thrown more picks, a lot more picks, and they were 7-2 with, I think, 7-2 or 5-2 last year before he got hurt. I forget when he got hurt, but 5-2 or 7-2. I know they had a winning record with him, so I'm hoping that he finds it and starts to produce like he did last year. But I think the Vikings are looking a little stronger this year, so I'm going with the Vikings. But I'll leave that to Jordan.
I like your picks. I mean, I hope the Vikings win too. Jameis Winston hasn't really been looking that sharp like Ryan mentioned. And I think the Vikings coming off their comeback win against the Lions last week can just turn that into momentum and take a win against the Saints.
Yeah, good call, guys. So next we're going Browns Falcons. Another the Browns are rated high in the power rankings, but again, I'm not too high on this team. I will give them a 7-point win in this one against the Falcons, though. But it's going to be run dominant. I think Nick Chubb's really got to have a good game if the Browns are going to win this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that the Browns are not going to win this game, and I think the Falcons are going to win it because actually I don't really have a great reason, but based on the way that the Browns lost to the Jets and gave up those points, they've really got the ground attack. Of course, is amazing with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but they've been okay the rest of the game. Like last week, they did really well, but it was against the Steelers. I'm sorry, guys, but the Steelers are not too hot right now, especially with Mitch Trubisky, and they gave up 17 points to them, I think. So I'm gonna say that the Browns are gonna lose to the Falcons. It's gonna be an upset win for the Falcons. I don't really have strong reasonings, just a feeling Marcus Mariota is gonna find him. He started to find Kyle Pitts a little bit more last week, so we'll see what happens. But I'll go Falcons by 3.
I agree. Falcons are going to win this game. Nick Chubb, though, is looking like the best running back this season by far. So I want to see how he performs. But the Falcons really have some great offensive weapons as well in Cordero Patterson and Kyle Pitts. So should be an offensive blast. And I'm excited for this game, but I have the Falcons beating the Browns.
Yeah, good picks, guys. Let's go now to the Patriots and the Packers at Lambeau Field. I'm gonna have the Packers by 10 in this one. I think our defense really showed something last week. I know Brady was down a few weapons, but our defense really stepped up in some key time situations. Only gave up that late touchdown last week in the fourth quarter. Rodgers against a really tough Buccaneers offense still looks solid. And Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. Lambeau Field home field advantage is really strong. I know Bill Belichick's tough to bet against, but until the Patriots offense shows me something, which they could this week, I'm going to take the Packers to win this one by 10.
I'm going to pick the Packers as well. I think the Packers are just an overall better team. But also, the one thing that I would like to point out is Mac Jones' injury is still kind of unclear if he's going to play. If not, it's going to be Brian Hoyer who's going to start, I believe. That's what Bill Belichick said for the Patriots. So that would make a difference, but I don't think it really makes that big of a difference. I think either way, if he plays or if he doesn't play, Packers are just a better team right now. I think the wide receivers are starting to find it a little bit more, starting to get less dropped passes. Rodgers is trusting them. But Sammy Watkins, unfortunately, is on the injured reserve. I know he didn't get hurt last week. It was the week before, I believe, that he got hurt because he was out last game. And he's going to be out for a couple more weeks. Unfortunate. I would like to see him. He was really good for the Bills. I mean, that was a couple years ago. More than a couple years ago. But he was really good for them. I'm hoping that he comes back. I think he could be a really good addition for the Packers this season if he produces and Rodgers starts to find him. But I guess we'll see. Packers are going to win.
I have the Packers too. I mean, it's really hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers. And if Aaron Rodgers is going up against Brian Hoyer, then no doubt pick Aaron Rodgers. The Patriots do turn over the ball a lot to start the season. So if they turn over the ball and Aaron Rodgers just stays dominant, Aaron Rodgers' receiving core is doing good too. And Romeo Dubes, he caught all 8 targeted passes with the touchdown too. So Packers wide receivers are coming alive a little bit. And I think if they keep it up, Aaron Rodgers will find a way to win.
Yeah, Dubes' 4th-round pick. I mean, he's got that speed, got that, looked good. Looked like he was Rodgers' #1 guy over Lazard last week. So maybe that's Lazard getting covered more, but Dubes definitely popped off against a really good Buccaneers defense. So now let's move on to Washington Commanders against Dallas Cowboys. Cooper Rush has honestly been looking really good, guys. I got to give him credit. He found CeeDee Lamb last week a little more than he has the first couple games. Commanders, I mean, they're coming off a really embarrassing loss against the Eagles, where Eagles were up 24-0 to start the game. I'll take Dallas by 7. I still think it'll be a close game. Divisional games are tough to predict, but I'll take Dallas by 7 in this one.
I'm going to take the Commanders because one thing I will say is that the Eagles were dominating last week, of course, in the first half, but the Eagles didn't score, I don't believe, in the second half because the final score is 24-8. So Commanders really stepped up. Does that really mean that the Eagles were shut down versus they started to play more laxly? I don't know if that's a word, but more lax because they were up by so much and it just felt like a dominating performance. I believe I saw a stat that the Commanders had -1 yards at one point and the Eagles had like 200 plus yards. And that's a crazy stat and that should never happen in a football game. But I think that the Commanders are going to take that and win this week. And the Cowboys, yes, they're looking pretty strong, surprisingly. I think it surprised us all based on the way they started with Dak Prescott. But now Cooper Rush is 2-0 right now. So that is something to consider. And their ground game started to come alive for the first time, and it seems like forever. Zeke had a few yards. Pollard did really well. But I think the Commanders are going to have a bounce back week. They're going to win by 7. Low scoring, though.
I like your pick, but I would say the Cowboys only because the Commanders, they gave up 9 sacks for Carson Wentz playing the Eagles. And without offensive line help, I feel like the Commanders don't really have that great of an offense to make something without any help from their O-line. And the Cowboys with Cooper Rush, he was 12-13 on consecutive drives in the second half. So there's a new Cooper. It's not Cooper Kupp, but Cooper Rush is really, really good right now. And I just feel like I'm going to roll with Cooper Rush for this win against the Commanders.
All right, next game we got the Titans and Colts. I'll just come straight out. I'll pick the Titans here. I think they're better than what they've showed the first 3 weeks. They got that win last week after starting 0-2. But it's tough to bet against the Colts after their surprising win against Kansas City last week, guys. That was huge. They got Pittman back. Jonathan Taylor's a force. Matt Ryan looked pretty good last week. But I still think, Derrick Henry, it's going to be tough, for the Colts to stop him, even though they do have one of the best linebackers in Darius Leonard. But I think it's going to be a close game. Really could go either way. But I'll give the Titans the benefit of the doubt. I'll pick them by 3 this week.
I think this is going to be a really good game, possibly the game of the week, because Colts coming off that win, Titans coming off that win. I believe, they won last week. And I don't know. I feel like these teams are kind of even. Like you both got Derrick Henry and you got Jonathan Taylor. Pretty even. Passing game, honestly kind of even. Like you got Robert Woods on one side and you got Michael Pittman on the other. I would pick Michael Pittman, but it's close enough. And the defenses, I mean, Colts really stepped up last week against the Chiefs. So that's why I'm going to pick the Colts. But I think it'll be possibly the game of the week. Although I did think the Jets game against the Bengals was going to be the game of the week last week. And sadly, that did not happen. So I'm going to say Colts are going to win by 3 in the 20s-ish area.
I called it last week with the Colts beating the Chiefs, so I'm gonna roll with the Colts again beating the Titans. Derrick Henry did look really solid, but those first 2 games he was pretty quiet, and the Colts have a really good defense. So if the Colts hold Derrick Henry to less than like 80 yards and they don't let the Titans offense get going, I think the Colts are gonna win.
And before we move on, I want to touch a little bit on the game last night. We touched on the Tua situation, and once he was out, they kind of really didn't do much else, and that's why the Bengals won. But it was a close game, and I thought that both teams, especially when Tua was in there, were performing pretty well. So that just wanted to touch on that real quick.
Perfect, man. So now next game we got Bears Giants. And I'm gonna roll with the Giants just because I saw a statistic this morning actually that said Cooper Kupp, Marquise Brown, and I forgot the other receiver all have more receptions this year than the entire Chicago Bears offense. So just based off that stat alone, I think the Giants are coming off a tough divisional loss against the Cowboys on national TV. I'll take the Giants in this one. I'll take them by 7.
I also think the Giants are going to win, and I hardly ever choose the Giants in a game. But Saquon Barkley, I know we've touched on him like every show, but he's looking really strong this year, and he's just going to keep producing. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. But I think, like you said, Ethan, the Bears are just not looking like, they're looking like the Bears, I guess you could say, but they're not looking like a good football team. I'm sorry for all you Bear fans, but I'm going to pick the Giants I'll pick them by 7 as well.
I have Giants too. I mean, both quarterbacks are really, really bad on Giants and Bears, but Justin Fields is not looking great at all. And I feel like he can turn the ball over a lot. And with Saquon in the backfield for the Giants, I think he can win them a game. So I got the Giants winning.
Yeah, I would say, not trying to be a biased Packer fan here, but I would say confidently the Bears are the worst 2-1 team in the league right now. So now moving on to the Jaguars and Eagles. This is an interesting one, guys. I know the Eagles are high on everyone's list, number 1 on the power rankings and everything, but Trevor Lawrence last week looked super good. He looked like the franchise QB Jacksonville has been looking for a long time. Prove why he was the number 1 pick. I'm still going to take the Eagles, though. I mean, it's tough to bet against an undefeated team. I'll take the Eagles by 10, but I think the Jaguars have a chance in this game.
Yeah, I agree the same way. I think the Eagles will win, but Jaguars looked really strong last week. They've looked pretty strong this season, I would argue. And the Eagles have looked stronger, and that's really the only reason I'm going to pick them. I don't really want to bet on the Jaguars, hence why I'm not. But also just because, Zach Wilson versus Trevor Lawrence, and I want Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson coming back this week. Again, we're going to touch on that later, so I won't say much. But I think the Eagles are going to win by 10 as well. But it's going to be a high-scoring game, I think.
Give me the Jaguars.
Yes, sir.
Jaguars with James Robinson. James Robinson really stepped up. Trevor Lawrence is looking really, really good, looking like his old Clemson himself. And he threw 3 touchdowns last week. The Eagles are really, really good. Like, don't get me wrong. Jalen Hurts is the perfect quarterback for Philadelphia with the receiving core that they got with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Like, that offense is set. But I just think the Jaguars are going to pull off the upset this week with Trevor Lawrence coming off a great game. I think he can redo it. And Doug Peterson is a really good coach in Jacksonville. So I'm going to roll with Doug Peterson and the Jags.
I'm actually going to take back my pick, and I'm going to agree with Jordan because I was just looking back on some scores the last games, and I forgot that they crushed the Chargers. I knew they had a big win, but they 38-10, and just coming off the week before was a 24-0 win over the Colts, who just beat the Chiefs. So I'm sorry. I think this is going to be an upset win for the Jaguars. They're going to come out firing, and yeah, I'm sorry. I take back my pick. I won't say by 10. I'll say by 7, but still high scoring.
Yeah.
It should be a really close game though with both these offenses. It should be a really close, entertaining game.
Yeah. I mean, like I said with the Bills a couple of weeks ago, until, the Eagles proved me wrong. I got to roll with the undefeated #1 team in the league. But I like your guys' picks. I really do. Now, speaking of Zach Wilson, Ryan, we're moving on to the Jets and Steelers. I got the Jets in this one, and I honestly don't think it'll be particularly close, Ryan. I hope you like my pick. But I thought the defense looked really solid. Sauce Gardner is going to be a top 5 cornerback in this league very soon, if not after this year. I'm predicting it. Looks super good against Jamar Chase, one of the better receivers in the league. Zach Wilson coming back can be huge. Garrett Wilson's looking great. And Mitch Trubisky already turns the ball over a lot against that defense, like the DBs that are really emerging. I don't see the Steelers having much success offensively. I'll take the Jets by 10.
I'm also going to pick the Jets, like I've picked them every week so far. But, I mean, we've honestly all been picking the Jets a little bit more this year. The one thing that's really tough to judge is that Zach Wilson, if he definitely plays, because he's looking like he's trending in that direction, like he's going to play. But he really has not practiced much with this offense, especially he hasn't practiced at all in games because he got out the second play, I think, of preseason of his play, and he threw an interception before that. So really, he has so much to learn in game with this team. But I think the Jets are going to win. Like you were saying, Sauce Gardner is looking really good, but even better, DJ Reed is looking outstanding. Right now, I saw a stat that he is second in the league in passer rating, like in a good way. Like I think passer rating against him is less than 3, which is crazy. And that's second in the league. And the third one is like in the 30s or something like that. So that's elite level right there. So the combination of elite Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, that is a killer combo. If their defense, the whole defense, can do really well and they don't give up any stupid plays that they've just been, because when you think about it, they've been giving up a lot of points. I think 9 straight games of giving up 30 plus points. And we keep saying good defense, but a good defense should not be giving up 30 points a game. So this is week 4. Yeah. 4th game of the season. They should really be starting to pick things up. I'm going to pick the Jets. I'll pick them by 10 as well, because just the Steelers are not looking good. Mitch Trubisky's not looking good. I'm hoping for a lot of turnovers. We kind of have yet to see that. I think we have 1 interception, I believe, on this season. And hopefully we can get a couple more this week. So I'm picking the Jets by 10.
Now, I know I say Giants fans always say Daniel Jones is the quarterback every single year. I think the same could be said about Jets fans with Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson on every single game always gives up turnovers, in my opinion, the games I watched. And this year, the Jets have only led 22 seconds this season. Their defense is good, and they're starting to get better, but they do give up huge plays in the backfield. And I think Deontay Johnson on the Steelers can find a way to create space and get open on the Jets secondary. So I know Mr. Trubisky is not that great of a quarterback, but they also have, and they don't even have TJ Watt, the Steelers, on defense this game. But I'm still gonna roll with the Steelers.
If I may, Zach Wilson, really, we haven't seen him. This is his 2nd year. Daniel Jones, This is his 4th year. So that's one thing. So there's almost, not always, but there's often a leap between 1st and 2nd year, which we have yet to see because he hasn't played at all. And also to your interception or turnover point, towards the end of last season, I know I've said this multiple times, but he's really stopped turning the ball over because he stopped taking as many risks. So if he can find that balance between taking a good risk and not throwing turnovers, then I think Zach Wilson could be really strong. And also, if you look at Jamar Chase versus Deontay Johnson, I think most of us would pick Jamar Chase as a better wide receiver. But if you look at last week's stats, he had the 1 touchdown, which was a miscommunication. He was wide open in the end zone. So that's really not on the cornerbacks. It is a miscommunication, so that is on the defense. So if you take Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool versus the Bengals wide receivers with Boyd and Chase, I would pick the Bengals wide receivers, and they really didn't do too hot last week against the Jets. It was other people that kind of killed them. The one worrying factor for me is Najee Harris, because he's really strong. He's a good pass catching and rushing running back. So that's the one area of, not one, but one of the areas of concern that I have, a big one. But I'm still going to pick the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I will, to Jordan's point though,
happens.
Ryan, I will say the Steelers are favored in this game. So we are picking the underdogs here, but
I just feel like to close this out, Najee Harris is going to be the X factor in this game, and the Jets for the first 3 weeks have been playing off Joe Flacco and not Zach Wilson. So it is interesting to see how they're going to like regroup with the new quarterback. So it should be an interesting game, entertaining game. I know it's not like two major teams like at the moment, but I think the matchup is very, very equal, and it should be a good game.
Yeah, we'll see, man. It's should be definitely an interesting game for sure. So now let's go Chargers Texans. I'll keep this brief. Texans looking terrible this year so far. Only have that week 1 tie, other 2 losses. Chargers are going to be upset that they got destroyed last week by the Jaguars. I'll take the Chargers by 14 in this game. This will be my big blowout of the week.
I agree. I'll take Chargers by 14 too. Chargers are just a better team. I know they didn't look good last week, but especially just like Ethan said, coming back for revenge this game. So I'm picking Chargers.
I don't know the status about Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen and all of them, like off the top of my head. So if they remain hurt, I could see the Texans pulling off the upset. But if they play, I think the Chargers are easily going to win. The Texans do have a really good passing defense so far. I know it was Justin Fields, but they forced him into 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. It's just the run defense that needs to get better for the Texans. So I might say the Texans. You know what? I am going to say the Texans are going to beat the Chargers this week, and it's going to be another big upset.
Just for the injury status, I just looked it up, and Keenan Allen is questionable. Justin Herbert is not. He's fine. And J.C. Jackson, they have a pretty solid cornerback. He's also questionable, but that's about it.
If Herbert plays, Chargers are going to win.
Good call, man. All right, let's go Cardinals Panthers. Now this is a tough one, and Jordan, I know you always say the Cardinals look good on paper, and they only look good on paper, but I got the Cardinals winning this week. I think Kyler Murray is approaching that top tier status of quarterback. I'd say there's like 6 or so quarterbacks in that list, but he's definitely approaching there. Same with, I think he's on the same tier as like Derek Carr right now. I like them both, but I think the Cardinals pull off the win this week by 7, but still going to be a good game. McCaffrey is questionable right now, I believe. So if he plays, that obviously makes a huge difference. But I'll still take the Cardinals by 7.
I think the Cardinals are going to win blowout. I'll say this is maybe even a bigger blowout. I know the Cardinals haven't looked absolutely outstanding this year. They're still kind of up and down, and they started to at the end of last season too. But the Panthers, I don't know. I feel like Baker Mayfield's really not doing much. I know that they have been winning games, some games, not many, but I know they won last week over the Saints. But I think in the first half last week it was like 5 for 12, which that's awful, and that's even worse than the Jets. So I'm gonna pick the Cardinals, big blowout here. I think this is the week where they find themselves and they win like. I'm not gonna say it, but I'll say 21-point blowout. More, I'm thinking like 38-10, like the Jaguars last week, but I'll say 21 points.
I'm going with the Cardinals too on this one. Baker Mayfield has not looked himself since he's been in Carolina, and Christian McCaffrey is not producing that much through the first 3 weeks. And the Cardinals with Kyler Murray is looking really good, but there's just no offensive game plan in my opinion with the Cardinals, and that's why I have so many doubts, because every time I watch them, it's just Kyler Murray just like running around, just trying to create something. They do have Marquise Brown and a bunch of other weapons the Cardinals do. So I think the Cardinals are going to beat the Panthers just because Baker Mayfield has not looked himself.
Yeah, good picks, guys. Now let's go to another AFC West divisional game. Broncos Raiders. I think Raiders are 0-3 right now. I don't think it stays that way. I think they're going to have a vengeance. Devontae Adams is really going to have a good week this week. I think he's been kind of doing not so great the past couple of weeks. I think Carr tries to find him more this week. Darren Waller is always a factor. I'll take the Raiders I'll still take it a close game because I hate betting against Russell Wilson, but I'll take them by 3 even after the Broncos had like that terrible game against the 49ers on Sunday Night Football.
I think the Broncos just look so bad right now. They're scoring like less than 20 points a game. I believe they scored. Yeah, they scored every game. I believe they scored less than 20 points, especially last 2. And last week, 11 points. They won 11-10. They won. That's such a weird score. I agree. But I think the Raiders. I agree with Ethan. The Raiders. They've been in every game, even though they're 0-3. They've been in every game. I think they're winning this game over the Broncos. Just that's all I'll say.
I think the Raiders are going to win too because the Broncos don't have that much offense. right now, and Russell Wilson. I do like Russell Wilson, but I don't think it's working out with him in Denver. And I'm gonna roll with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. I think this is the week they make some noise. Devontae Adams goes off, and the Raiders get their first win.
Like it, guys. Now going on to our Sunday night football game. I think the game of the week between the Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, with Hurricane Ian. Hopefully I'm getting that right. There's questions whether it'd be hosted in Tampa Bay, and it is. I think that gives obviously the Buccaneers an advantage, but I'm still gonna roll with the Chiefs this week. I know Tampa Bay is gonna want to bounce back after a tough loss against Green Bay, but I think the Chiefs are going to want to bounce back too. Like they lost to the Colts. I think it's going to be just a shootout though. I'll take the Chiefs in a very, very close game by a touchdown.
I don't think it's going to be very close. I don't think the Buccaneers are really looking like themselves yet this year. I know they had a lot of injuries last week, and that's definitely a big factor as to why Green Bay was able to win that game. But Green Bay was the better team last week. I'm not arguing against you, Ethan, here. But I think the Buccaneers just have not looked strong, and the Chiefs have looked strong, especially coming off the loss last week to the Colts. They're going to kind of want to come out here firing. I'll say it'll be closer than the other blowouts, but I'm going to say like 10 points, but it's not going to be that close. It'll be 10 points at the end. You can never bet against Tom Brady, but I'm betting against him this time. So I'm picking Chiefs by 10.
I will briefly. I'll strongly disagree with you, Ryan, by saying the Buccaneers are not looking like themselves. Their defense is like the best in the league right now. I think they gave up 3, 10, and 14 last week. So I do like the pick though. I think it can definitely happen, but the Buccaneers were 2-point conversion away basically from being 3-0 right now and being one of the better teams. And I don't know. I just think they look solid this year, but we'll see. I mean, with the receiving core, we don't know how Tom Brady's going to do, so we'll see.
I have the Buccaneers only because it's at home and Mike Evans is coming back. Tom Brady is still Tom Brady, in my opinion. And the Chiefs lost last week to the Colts, and I think the Colts really exploited how to beat the Chiefs. And I think the Buccaneers are going to use that with their offense, with their defense you just mentioned, and being at home with the whole hurricane thing. I think it's just going to be on the Buccaneers side because I think they're just going to have motivation to go out and win for Tampa Bay. So.
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude there, Ryan, but I do think the Buccaneers so far this year, after watching last week's entire game too, their defense looks like the best in the league, and it's not even close.
That's definitely
that's why I definitely like Tampa Bay, just going forward. But final game of the week, guys, we're going Monday Night Football, another divisional game between the Rams and 49ers. I got the Rams, man. I mean, Super Bowl champs. I got them big in this game. I'm not sure the injury status, but right now I'm looking and the 49ers are favored by 1.5 points. I actually don't know how that's even possible. Respectfully, after watching last week, yeah, there's got to be someone injured. I haven't really done my research, but I do not know how the 49ers are favored by 1.5 points.
Trey Lance, but
Trey Lance I think Trey Lance is still out though.
Yeah, he is out for the season.
Oh yeah, out for the season.
But Garoppolo's there.
Yeah, that's baffling to me. Yeah,
I would bet against.
Like I said last week, I don't condone anyone betting, but if you're gonna bet, Rams all day. I got the Rams big in this game, guys. I don't know how the 49ers are favored. I know they're at home, but I'll take the Rams by 14.
I mean, I know the Rams 49ers game in the playoffs last year was a big surprise, especially for the 49ers, but the Rams ended up on top, and it was probably closer than people imagined, and especially imagine the 49ers getting there. Almost nobody is gonna pick that. Kyle Shanahan, great coach, but I think the Rams are just a better team. I have no idea how the 49ers are favored, especially after losing 11-10. 11-10. Oof, that's terrible. So I'm just picking the Rams. I got nothing else to say.
I have the Rams too. I think it's an easy pick, like you guys have been saying. Rams defense looking really, really solid, and Jimmy Garoppolo just looks flustered as the quarterback because did you see him just step out of bounds for that safety?
Dan Orslowski.
I don't have any trust in Jimmy G as a quarterback, so I'm going with the Rams solely because of their defense.
All right, well, that wraps up week 4, guys, and I guess that'll wrap up our radio show for this week. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and as always, this is the Sports Bros. Ryan, Ethan, excuse me, signing out. See you guys later.